All right. It's been a long time since I posted a video, but we are back. I'm here with Mountain Bullion and the Silver Hermit, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. The big run up that silver's had, the price spikes, the volatility in the market, other things with gold as well, the geopolitical system or changes that have happened. So, welcome, guys.
Hello, how do you do?
Oh, I'm
Hey,
doing
thanks
well.
for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. I'm glad you guys are on because it's like my first video I posted. It was the three of us, and it's been like 7 months since I posted a video. I've had a lot of stuff going on in my life, but I am finally getting back in the business. So all of that aside, also you should subscribe because I'm doing a free silver giveaway at 1,000 subscribers. Now, that being said, so silver price right now is like in the 90s. So and it ran up to what did it hit like 120 US dollars per troy ounce?
Yeah,
Something
somewhere
like
right
that.
around there.
126 even, something like that, 122, something like that.
Yeah, like in intraday trading or something. Yeah, that is I it kind of took me by surprise because I was I guess not expecting it to happen this quickly. Like I knew it was going to rise up and it's going to certainly exceed that amount in the future, but it's just funny seeing like YouTube channels that are I'll just say are not us saying like, oh well, we're never going to see triple digit silver uh, and then like a month later, it's like 115 or whatever. And it's just it amazes me because the fundamentals are there, and we've harped on this a lot, but it is interesting how the market has changed. I I I kind of hope it comes down a bit for a while, which I'm sure it eventually will. Um, because I would like to, like finish up with school and like make some more, not be poor for a little bit and stack up some. But at least I got what I got. I'm really glad I got into it when I did, and not, it's crazy to think I was buying, ounces of silver for like $14 an ounce or whatever it was back in the day. But so how have you guys been with the I guess your experiences and general thoughts with the big rise in silver and with gold and platinum and palladium prices.
Well, it's been really exciting, and not all that long ago. I mean, in just September of 2025, silver was about $40 per ounce. Of course, we all experienced it popping over 100. Getting up around 120 in the mid 120s, like you guys had mentioned, and then it crashed back down again. But it's still more than double where it was just 6 months ago. So it's been a great ride. I've kind of been enjoying the price swings. Um, it's a long-term game for me, and I think that for most stackers it's a long-term gain, and
Mhm.
so we can ride these price swings and not worry about it too much. What I do think is interesting is they say that JP Morgan has completely closed its short position in silver, according to a couple articles that I've read, and now they're sitting on 750 million ounces of physical silver. So I think they're also in it for the long game, and I think that that says a lot. That what they see is eventually this market is going to keep going up. And I don't know how soon that's going to be, but I do believe we're going to see it correct at least to where it had been when it did its price jump. We're going to see the gold to silver ratio get back down in the mid 40s, I believe, sooner than later. I firmly believe that's going to happen this year. And with all the geopolitical stuff that's going on, it might come even quicker than I expect.
Yes. I want to say that, it's kind of a strange experience because on one hand, the theory said that the price of silver should skyrocket this way, almost in a straight line up.
Yeah.
And everything, all the study, all the research we've done about the topic said that this is what is supposed to happen. And yet, when you see it happening, actually happening, it does tend to surprise you because, you look at the charts, you look at the theory, and you say, okay, it's nice. Like I really would like that to happen, but
Yeah.
seeing it happen is a different thing altogether. So I think that we've only seen the first leg up. I think that right now we're seeing a correction. I don't think we've seen the top. I think after some consolidation, we're going to see even higher highs, and I think the price is going to surprise. Excuse me. So I don't think we've seen the top. I think what we're seeing right now is just a correction, and after some consolidation, we're going to see a far higher prices,
Mhm.
perhaps even this year. So hang on, continue stacking, hold on to your physical silver, and don't sell.
Yeah, I hope that we will see it pull back so I can hopefully put some money into it. Trade in some dollars for it or whatever, my tax returns. I think it'll come down, of course, because that's how these markets operate. But I think it's yeah, in the long term, it's gonna go up. I mean, and this is a great example of yeah, like you mentioned how silver can do this. And it's crazy to see how because it did happen so fast, how the infrastructure is like not in place, or it's which I guess makes sense to some extent if these events are not happening all the time. But I know around me, a lot of local shops are uh, like it depending on the day or depending on the price and various other factors and the shop, they're buying for backup spot. Um, there's some places that they don't, if you have like 40% silver, they don't want it. Or if you're like you insist on selling it, they'll give you like half of melt value because the refineries are just at full capacity. The refineries are not really, the refineries don't even want 90%. They just want 999 fine coming in, which is basically what they're getting because that volume, so many people are cashing in. And I think there's two factors to that as far as which is interesting to see how this will play out in a little bit of a longer term because I know with myself and with other people I know have sold silver during this kind of um, this recent top when it went over 100 or when it was 90, recently, or even when it was 80 or in the 80s because mostly mostly the people I know weren't really doing it. I mean, I guess they were doing it to take profit, and I was doing it to take profit, but really I would have liked to just hold it for the most part. I did, trade some for gold when the ratios were at a certain place. Same with platinum. I moved some metals around, but just because of my life situation right now, it was just a good opportunity to like okay, I can sell a couple ounces and help pay some bills for a little bit and just relieve some financial burden because we're going through stagflation and it's starting to get bad where I've noticed people around me are starting to run out of money. And if it were not for my stack, I would have run out of money at this point. I don't know what I'd even do. I have to get a second job basically. Um,
I can't fault anyone for selling some silver in order to, pay the bills,
yeah,
because at the end of the day, that's why we stack. But if you don't have to do it, then don't do it. I mean, I think
yeah.
silver, all precious metals are headed a lot higher. Regarding the recycling
Mm,
part of the business, yes, it's true that right now, if you try to sell 90% silver or less, you're not going to get its full value.
mm,
And I think it's a temporary thing. It's
mm.
just because the refineries are backed up, and I think it's going to change. So if you have to sell some silver, start by selling some 999 silver, some pure silver first. You'll get the best price this way, but keep your junk silver, so to speak.
Mm.
Keep that constitutional silver because there will come a day in which it will get, its full value once the refineries are, everything is all clear and people are not selling their 999 silver. Perhaps even there's increased demand for it, so they have no choice but to start refining the 90% silver or less. Or perhaps they don't have any silver to recycle at all. So there will come a day in which that constitutional silver is going to, shine, really shine.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. I what I would recommend to people who are considering selling anytime soon is making an eBay account. I know I haven't sold anything on eBay in probably about 9 or 10 months. And I would only sell a few items here or there just to keep the account active. And so,
Mm.
so I had some recent positive reviews. So that way, if I ever did want to sell a whole lot, I could offload it quickly through eBay. And a big part of the reason is you're going to make a lot more money off eBay um, in general. Now, of course, I'm not going to fault anyone for walking into a coin store and selling their silver, but it's going to be hard to make as much money at a coin shop as you would on eBay, even considering the eBay fees.
Yeah,
Um,
which
so
are very high. Sorry if I cut you off there. Uh, I recently with my hand poured stuff, I finally s- sold something on eBay, and I was shocked by the fees because I was used to um basically platforms where you're meeting up with somebody in person. So I guess maybe you're paying gas prices and your time, but yeah, that ate into it quite a bit. So I don't know if you have any good tips to mitigate that, like because I've only sold one thing. I'm not sure if you sell a larger amount or is it a flat percentage that they take out?
well, what I would say is you know, exactly what you guys were talking about. So the refiners right now, they're only accepting 3 and 4/9 fine silver.
Mm,
And so if you get a bigger coin shop, now the coin shop that is closest to me is substantial. And their buying and selling doesn't seem to have been impacted at all. My understanding is a lot of smaller coin shops are really kind of struggling right now. And if you're in a situation where they're wanting to pay you significantly under spot for some constitutional silver that you'd like to sell, it's just something that you might want to consider. Um, if you throw it on eBay, so let's say you've talked to your local coin shop, you know what your margins are. Throw it on eBay, and you might be surprised. Um,
mm.
I mean, there were things that I've sold on eBay for literally double what I was offered at a coin shop.
Yeah, no, I wish what I sold that I had priced it higher because of how quickly it sold. Like I think I could have added probably $50 to the price and it would have basically sold just as quickly. So I I, I want to get into the eBay stuff a bit more. But also as far as some coin shops wanting to pay less for 40% or 35%, 90%, 80%, the flip side of that is right now 90% or 80%, 40%, all of that is really cheap right now. You can get that for under spot price, like easy,
Right,
especially
right.
like, which is, it is kind of weird because it's almost a reversion to back, 10 years ago or whatever. I mean, it seemed like the price was a little more stable. I guess the swings were still similar percentages back and forth, but smaller dollar amounts. But yeah, I'm thinking about doing that because, if I can like even like literally selling a couple ounces of bullion in a private sale where I can sell it, a couple dollars over spot and immediately turn around and get more silver, more total silver weight in 90% for, 5% under spot or something in the long term, it's probably going to be a pretty good outcome. I mean, it might be a little bit risky with the timing. I'll see about that. But in general, just buying it. Like I've seen some pretty good deals out there, even with online dealers who typically cost more than the local shops. And if the local shops are paying, for 40%, I've called around to some shops for different stuff and just asked their prices. And there's a shop that for like 40%, they didn't even want it. So I'm sure if they have some of it, they can sell it for a pretty good deal, or you can talk them down to a good deal. That is the nice thing about shops is you can kind of haggle a little bit, but yeah, it's just an interesting time for the silver market. So,
Yes, yes. I think it's a great idea. Whoever has some spare cash, I think getting some constitutional silver right now is a great idea. If you're able to hold on for it for a while, I think in the long run, it's going to trade at least for spot, if not much more than that.
mhm. Oh yeah, and I think yeah, I think in addition to whether it's 90% or it's bullion, I know there are new people, new money, I guess, and people entering the silver market because now there's some hype around it. Got a little bit of news coverage, which is funny. I guess a lot has been going on recently. We'll get to some of that in a sec, which I'm sure will all be outdated by the time this video is posted. But yeah, I think at least really, I think the global economy is not looking good. I know at least in the U.S. or at least in Michigan, uh, things are not doing well. Like people are starting to run out of money. I've noticed people have very little food in their fridge, like meager rations. Literally, I think things are going to get worse, and having silver and gold as well and other metals. Those safe haven metals and assets, I guess, you're going to want that. Like I feel it relieves my anxiety about that, knowing that I have what I have. So for anybody, I guess, new getting into this, like once you start accumulating a little bit, you will feel much better about your financial security because if you have it in government fiat, or you have it in stocks or that, essentially all of that is made up stuff. It's man-made BS essentially to one extent or another, and that can just be pulled out from under you at any time. With silver, with gold, and especially with silver, with it being like a key industrial metal, unless we revert back to 200 years ago level of technology. Um, we're going to need a lot of silver going forward and need it now. So it's just something. It's great money. It's the best money to have, in my opinion. Um, I do like gold, but I think silver is better than gold as a store of wealth. I guess it's more volatile, but uh, I think the industrial uses give it that edge. I think it's still good to have both, obviously. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really think silver is the better buy right now, and I do feel strongly that it's just a matter of time until constitutional silver is, like it was 2 years ago, um, to
Hmm.
put it simply. But once the refining capacity gets resolved, either just through the bottleneck, them getting through the bottleneck, or the new smelter coming online in Tennessee, um, of course there will be a lag period, but a year or two from now, I think this whole thing with the 90% silver will be over, is my guess.
Oh yeah, I think they'll within a year from now things will get figured out. That's generally the markets are very good at figuring things out if they're at least left to their own devices, um, and voluntary exchange and all that. Um, but anyway, so you guys want to talk a little bit about the war and how
Yes.
that might affect things, and I guess the geopolitical situation in general in the world?
Sure, you bet. Um, well, some folks I think have wondered if the price increase that we saw on, late last week on Friday was kind of baking in, the overall increase that would happen after the war broke out. And although I would say yes, there was warning signs that a war was going to break out, it might have caused the price to rise a little prior to the weekend. But overall, no, I don't think that this was already priced in. Um, and just to preface this a little bit, the U.S. and Israel have started bombing Iran, and it has been reported that the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, if I said that correctly, has been killed.
Mhm.
And he has been in power since 1989 out there in Iran. Iran has retaliated by launching rockets against Israel and U.S. bases in the region, including where Orrin lives now. And
Yes.
this is going to, yeah, so tough times out there, brother.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, here in Israel, this war mainly means, sitting in a bomb shelter, or as I'm sitting right now in a safe space within your home, which has the reinforced walls and a steel window. Unfortunately, we do have some first casualties here from a direct hit. I think in Tel Aviv. That's very sad, but all in all, the price that we're paying is small compared to the possibility that a nuclear Iran will be eliminated and a very evil regime will be toppled and in place of it, perhaps the Iranian people are going to take over and establish a new democratic regime. So there is the possibility that this conflict, this war, is going to lead to a better future. So we're seeing it in this perspective.
Sure, absolutely. And I do hope that it leads to a freer world. I do hope that it leads to a more peaceful world in the future. And of course, seeing it escalate this has left a lot of people wondering, what will this mean for gold and silver? Um, so, I'm not glad that a war is breaking out, but this is bullish for the metals. Um, I mean, we
I
have
want to
to,
point out, if you'll permit me, I want to point out that usually within such events, such as wars or cataclysmic events, what they do is they launch the price to a new reality, but it was in the making for a long time. There are always those factors working in the background, such as inflation, that they're the true drivers of the price. But then when you get those events, they are as though the excuse for a move which was in the making for a long while. And I want to point out oil, for instance. Look, the price of oil is primed to break out. It has been in this consolidation for quite a while, a couple of years, and it was preparing for a big move. And we were asking ourselves, what is going to propel the price of oil higher? And right now, this conflict in the Persian Gulf is as though the perfect excuse for the price of oil to shoot up. And this is what I expect to see in the coming weeks. So you need to keep this in mind, as though the geopolitical events are not driving the price, perhaps only, just giving it the push, the final push to go where it wanted to go.
sure, absolutely. And they say that 20% of the world's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz. And at this point, I mean, we should expect, hopefully not, but we should expect that there will be at a minimum some shipping disruptions
Oh
in the
yeah,
coming
there.
weeks,
I mean,
right through there.
I mean, when this video is posted, obviously you're listening to us talk in the future, so we're in the past. You know more about what happens than we do now. But even right now, there's already ships are diverting away and going around Africa instead. So that is such a vital choke point for so much, not just oil, like so much stuff flows through that strait. And if that remains contested, who knows what's going to keep going on with in Iran internally, whether the government's going to get overthrown, what's going to happen. Because I'm sure they have, you know, 20 million, and not literally, but 20 million anti-ship missiles and systems just sitting right there. We can park F-35s and kind of take them out uh, for a bit, but it is a very vulnerable place, and it's a key strategic area, which is, why if you look at where the U.S. has certain bases in the region, it, makes sense. But um, yeah, it's just, I guess we'll see what happens. And I think this is also part of a bigger thing in general. And we saw a operation that's very minor in comparison to what's going on here in Venezuela not too long ago. But I think it goes beyond just the current administration in the U.S. or the current government in Israel or Iran. It is I feel like we're going through a big geopolitical reshuffling right now that because of nuclear weapons, it is not as overt, or it can't be as always kinetic as like say World War I or World War II or something like that. But I think the undercurrents, something like that is going on. We do see major wars breaking out, like in Ukraine, like right now with the stuff with Iran, the stuff with Ukraine and Russia that's been going on for years now. The the rivalry between the U.S. and China, which is gonna, I think that is a very scary proposition there. But I think there's just a big reshuffling that's going to be going on, and it is going on, and it's yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting
Yes,
to see what's on the other end of that.
Exactly. I agree with you completely. I know that many Americans are opposed to war. They don't want to see their country get involved with, some forever war like they've had in Iraq or Afghanistan. And if that's true, you shouldn't get involved with in a forever war, which is pointless and leads you
Mhm.
nowhere. But if you are able to gain a strategic advantage with a very quick, primarily aerial campaign in which
Mhm.
you destroy enemy targets, military targets, and allow the locals, the people themselves, to rise up and take over the regime, topple the regime, install a better regime, a more democratic one, a more peaceful one, then you are able, with minimal effort and minimal casualties, to improve the security, the safety of the world. And I think what the Trump regime is doing is very smart. Instead of confronting China and Russia directly, they're going through their allies one by one, weakening them. Russia and China particularly needs oil. Iran, because it's under sanctions, was able to supply China with cheap oil for a long while. If the regime is toppled, then this source of oil will be cut off. Then perhaps, or China will still be able to get oil, but it'll have to pay more for it. So this, as though, is weakening China, it's weakening Russia, and perhaps it has the potential of perhaps even avoiding World War III altogether. Because I think all the conflicts we've been seeing in the past few years are like as though fronts in this coming World War III. Ukraine, Gaza, Venezuela, Iran right now. These are all fronts. You should think of them as fronts in a large global conflict.
Yes.
Now, if you are able to end this conflict right here, right now, by weakening China and Russia to the point that they no longer want to fight, then perhaps entire world war will be avoided. So
Right.
it's
That
it's a positive thing to do if you're able to do it with minimal casualties, with a minimal effort. So you need to think about it in this perspective. Maybe you're entering a relatively small conflict in order to prevent a far larger one. Okay, so perhaps it's
Mm.
worthwhile.
No, and I absolutely agree that the I think the way you phrased that was basically perfect. That all of these different flashpoints or conflicts that have been happening uh, over the past couple years, and more so recently, should be seen as fronts in a larger conflict because that is exactly what they are. Like if you look at it as if you're playing a strategy game or something like that. That's exactly what's going on. And do you want, I guess, a Western global order, which has plenty of its own problems, but would you rather have that, which we actually can kind of change, especially, if people uh, get their shit together a bit more and, do something about some of the things going on. Uh, but would you rather have that where we could actually have the possibility to change it, or would you rather have a Chinese Communist Party fascist? Because they're literal National Socialist is what China is, literal Nazi China. Would you rather have that regime be like the world power that replaces the U.S. or the West? I think it's a pretty clear choice when I look at it. I'd
Yeah,
rather have the Western system.
yeah,
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 really
exactly,
good points, you
exactly.
guys. You know, I'm not glad that the war is breaking out, but we have to remember this is a regime that would chant death to America. So it was probably just a matter of time until we experienced a conflict with them.
Mhm.
And with all of this uncertainty that you guys are talking about and this kind of restructuring of the global order, um, people are going to want to move towards a safe haven asset in a situation like this, and gold and silver can offer it to them. So I do think that it's important to remember that this really is likely going to be bullish for the metals, moving forward from here. And something that I was thinking about earlier in regards to silver, um, some silver has literally already been blown up in this conflict. According to Fox News, the first missile in the U.S. arsenal used against Iranian targets on Saturday's pre-dawn strikes was the Tomahawk. And these are long-range cruise missiles that we normally fire from our Navy ships or submarines. And these are big missiles. They can carry warheads up to 1,000 pounds. And it had previously been reported that the Tomahawks use about 500 ounces of silver, although some people wonder if that estimate might be a little high. You get the idea. Um, a lot of these cruise missiles are going to have silver in them. whatever amount it is, it's getting blown up during this conflict.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If you had anything, yeah, that whatever. Silver's used in so much stuff, which I think it's purposeful that we're not really educated about that unless you take metallurgy courses or something. Um, then you have to learn about it. But other than that, everybody knows oil is used in everything, but as far as silver, I feel like it's purposely swept under the rug because if and I'm sure whatever, I don't know, maybe I'll make a poll, whatever percentage of my audience here are like anarchists or something adjacent to that, uh that know about agorism and counter economics, you know, um, silver and gold, we can use that and just, it's the idea of um, going into basically engaging in black markets and or gray markets outside of fiat, basically outside of government institutions or anything like that. Um, and I think that can be really powerful for basically a peaceful revolution, because if it takes the power away from the power structures. And unless the government decides to just start throwing people in concentration camps, there's really not much they can do about it. It would cause some upheaval. That I don't want to get into all the political theory on it, but I think as far as talking about a more peaceful world in general, I think silver and gold and other things that are not government controlled or corporate controlled money, or I don't know, our entire financial system is just it's completely screwed up. And that I don't know, it causes strife. It causes a lot of issues. Um, so I don't know. I'm
I
just
think
throwing the counter economics thing out there.
I agree with you that eventually silver is going to pacify the world. For the simple reason that when you can't print fiat currency and you need to use real money, then there's less budget or less funds for war.
Hmm.
Yeah, you have to think about the important things. You have to think about, feeding your people and keeping the peace. And you don't have the funds for all sorts of military adventures across the world. So eventually, I do think that silver is going to make the world a more peaceful place. Unfortunately, I think there are going to be a few years, the years of turmoil on the
Hmm.
way there.
Oh yeah.
It's going to take a few more years till things perhaps settle down. Right now, we're in the midst of this, global conflict, and I think as people are going to discover in the coming year or two, it's going to be a conflict on resources. I
Hmm.
think we're entering a new commodity super cycle. I think all commodities are going to rise in price, both due to inflation and scarcity of resources. And I think the stars of that commodity super cycle are going to be gold and silver. So whoever is already in physical gold and silver, and also, having a bit exposure to mining companies is not a bad idea if you have some spare cash and the appetite for risk. And I would also point out, together with gold and silver, copper and crude oil. I think these are going to be, the leaders of the commodity complex in the coming years, because these are the resources which are, in short supply. In theory, if you have the necessary equipment and the necessary materials, you can always grow more wheat, more rice, etc. But you can't produce more gold, more silver, more copper, and more crude oil. Their amount is limited. So also depends on the market price. So I think the best way to deal with the coming upheaval in the coming years is going to be being in those commodities, having exposure to that commodities. Gold and silver, of course, it's the easiest things to own. You just buy the physical and you sit on it. Nothing more than that. Oil is a little more difficult to own because you can't own it directly, can't store it at your basement. You need to own the companies which produce it. I just recently bought some of those shares of oil producing companies. And it's going to be a small part of my portfolio, but I still want to have some exposure to that. And copper, I'm looking for the right time to get into copper as well.
No, yeah, I totally agree with that. I think because if you look at, and I've done a little bit of calculations on this or attempting to because there's so much data to try and sift through and there's caveats here and there, but it's the economy. Nobody can fully understand it. But it's like what percentage of the GDP is actually real things? Because everything is reliant on GDP growth. That's or stock price growth, which it's all intertwined. Line goes up. That's the whole thing. And it's like how much of like let's say the US GDP growth or whatever, or just the US GDP in general, how much of that is actually real or and how much of it is although they may have value uh streaming services or like apps on your phone or AI chatbots, all of this stuff that is intangible. I would guess like probably like nearly half of it, at least in the US. Like the service sector is pretty big. That's more human labor too. So maybe it's a little lower than that, but it's still quite a lot more than it was like whatever at the end of World War II or in the right before World War II. And if you compare the GDP to national debt ratios and then take into account how much of the GDP is not commodities with the percentage that's not commodities, it all of this points to me to like basically agreeing with you. I'm just saying it in my autistic way, but maybe that adds a little further context for anybody who followed that, if that made sense.
Yes, I
Sure,
agree
sure,
with you
absolutely.
completely.
No,
These
yeah,
sectors are extremely overvalued, the tech and
Hmm.
services. Just consider that a lot of the service jobs are going to be replaced by AI in the coming years.
Hmm.
So you just realize that perhaps a lot of the businesses out there are going to have to be cut in half, as you say, just because, there's going to be the cost of labor is going to fall in those sectors,
Yeah.
specifically in those sectors, and that means prices of those services are going to fall, and then the value of the companies, producing them is going to fall as well.
Hmm. Yeah, it's almost like the whole economy is like a house of cards. Like it really is. And it we can build it back up, but the fake stuff's gotta come apart at some point. I don't see it being sustainable. At least if it does continue, then like eventually when people can't feed their kids, they're gonna revolt. So
sure. And they're like, why is this happening? The GDP says that everything's great.
yeah,
Because it is adding to the GDP. Yes, so it is a bit confusing.
yeah, and because it's always framed that way, I feel like people are not as, and I'm not trying to be alarmist, but I feel like people should be alarmed at the situation, you know? So I don't know. But it's always framed in like, oh yeah, but GDP is great. Oh, well, we pumped the brakes on inflation a little bit. It's like, okay, but the money's still inflating. It's like you're using percentage, I don't know, using statistics to lie basically is what happens all the time. And that is like the normie news cycle for looking at the market generally. Um, and we're like we're like the people that are outside of the matrix, so to speak. So
Yeah, kind of looking in from the outside. We're like outside observers somehow.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
I'm very glad I got into precious metals because it really unlocked a different way of thinking about anything financial or monetary. Um, but yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
well, and then I also agree with what Orrin had said earlier that these conflicts are largely going to be over commodities, competition for access to commodities. Um, Now, I do think a lot of people are wondering, what is going to happen with the gold and silver prices? Um, are they going to go up? Well, typically the price for gold will rise when conflicts start or there's geopolitical uncertainty. Although I would mention after the end of the Gulf War, the price for gold dropped and it basically retraced all of its gains from the beginning of the war in that case. But this time around, I do wonder if we won't see as big of a retracement in the price of gold. And the reason I wonder this is because of the situation with the US dollar. The petrodollar agreement with Saudi Arabia ended in June of 2024. We're over $38 trillion in debt. And also, central banks have been buying gold. In 2025, central banks bought about 863 tons of gold. There was 22 central banks that reported increasing their gold reserves last year, and the Bank of Poland added the most with about 102 tons. And then on top of that, we have China selling US bonds. And so we can see that the world is kind of slowly moving away from the dollar, as a like a preferred reserve asset, and it's going towards gold. Also, silver is starting to get recognized as a critical metal. We're in the 6th year of a silver deficit right now. And so I do think it's possible whenever the conflict comes to an end, whether it's a few weeks or a few months from now, we might not see as big of a retracement in the price as we had previously.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
you guys, I'm afraid I need to leave you, so you can go on talking.
oh, no,
Uh,
no problem. Yeah, Warren, any final thoughts before you go? And then, yeah, we'll probably wrap this video up pretty shortly anyway. And we've been going for a
Yes,
little while.
I did want to say that there's a lot of what we call nominal confusion regarding the GDP. I think a lot of what you're seeing as GDP growth is in fact inflation masquerading as growth, because if you fudge the numbers, you can
Mhm.
pretend as though some of that inflation is in fact growth, which is not the case. And this is what's kind of misleading people into thinking that all is fine, but gold and silver are the canaries in the gold mines. No
Mhm.
pun intended. So they're as though alerting us that something is happening, that inflation is again picking up, that we're going to have another wave of inflation. So yeah, things are probably in the economy are not as good as they're trying to tell you. So as we always say, stick to your goals, stick to your silver, keep on stacking. I believe that long term it's going to be very profitable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, Oren,
Absolutely. Well,
thank
stay safe out there, Oren.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you. So thank you for having me, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Talk to you later. Have a good one.
See you, man.
Well, I'm not sure what else you might have wanted to talk about,
Yeah,
or if we should just like wrap it up.
yeah, let's yeah. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. We went over a lot of stuff for anybody that's still watching at this point. Um, thank you. I appreciate it. Please like the video. I'm begging you. Please share with your friends. I'll literally enter you in a raffle. You might literally get paid if to subscribe. Like, just please do it. But anyway, that aside, yeah, I don't know what I'll call this video. Me something schizo talking.
Okay.
Um,
I think I'm gonna stop recording now.
okay. But all right. Yeah, I'm gonna sign off and yeah, guys, just anybody still watching, I should probably have said this earlier. Just put in the comments what your experiences have been during this whole big price increase over the past 6 months or so. Um, and yeah, I'm interested to hear if my people in my area have had different experiences or whatever. So, all right, everybody, thank you for watching, and I will have more videos coming out on a more regular basis. There's a lot of stuff that went on the past half a year or more than that, actually. But thank you for being patient with me, everybody. I really appreciate it. The very few of you that are actually watching to the end. Love you. Salome. See ya.